Good morning. Well, for the last about 15 days, we have been flooded and bombarded with all the discussions that pertain to hacking of the Democratic National Party's computers by Russia. And it looks as if the Democratic Party's hacking is much more serious than the hacking of Pentagon that was done by the Chinese, hacking of the White House, allegedly done by North Koreans, hacking of the Army and the Air Force, allegedly done by Iran. But at that time the news came and went. Now it appears that this is a sort of a declaration of crusade, a jihad against Trump, indirectly, though the obvious aim is at Russia. Are we back to the era of McCarthyism? Are we again going to suffer what was called the black fear, creating a silence of fear, silence of disgust and frustration? It was February 9, 1950, that John McCarthy, a senator, came up with a most amazing statement, and he sent a letter to the president and declared that he was aware of 250 card-bearing Communist Party members who were working in the State Department. Now, being a member of the Communist Party was at that time deemed to be a criminal offense. It was supposed that anybody who is a communist is an agent of Russia or China. Ridiculous. The country like US, which calls itself the bastion of freedom, had restrictions on the communists. And when Senator McCarthy started the nation, they started a witch hunt. 2,000 employees lost their jobs. The judges and the politicians and the common people, especially the academy and the teachers, they were quite deaf and mute, and nobody knew at what time they'll be hauled up and carried to Gulag, the jails. All around was an atmosphere of fear. The FBI started a very secret program, and the program was called Counterplow. That was to weed out all the communists or the people having the communist tendencies. And this trend continued till 1971, when the then President Nixon went to China and established some sort of normalcy. Slowly the Cold War came to an end, and this sort of drum beating coupled with the chest beating became a thing of the past. But now again, since October, we have been hearing the war cries, but not the war paint. 35 diplomats expelled, 2 compounds ordered to be vacated, economic sanctions which have no meaning. We have seen it earlier in the case of India, Pakistan, Iran, all over, North Korea. Nobody cares for these sanctions. I mean, so these people think that their sanctions are going to be a bolt from the heavens to smite out the infidels. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen that way any longer. Anyway, what is being created is an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. The real issue is to clear the pitch for the forthcoming President-elect Trump. At the same time, destroy the relationship with China and with Russia. Russia at the first instance, China secondly, because the political system is identical over there, and also because North Korea is fully supported by China. Anyway, coming back to McCarthyism, we have seen what is McCarthyism. It is to make a statement without any evidence or with manufactured evidence. All the newscasts and the commentators agree there is no evidence which can be proved in a court of law or proved before a commission. So they are not evidences, they are just allegations. So why is this McCarthyism being resorted to? That's one thing. And why this silence, black silence of fear, as Justice William or Douglas would have called it? The main purpose is to ensure that President-elect Trump fails. Now, let me at the same time divert a bit and tell you that this witch hunting is not something new, something peculiar to United States. It was the norm in India as well. I remember as a student when we organized a strike against the principal of the college. I was called by the Supreme Police. I was one of the leaders of the strike. And the SP told me, look here, I'll ensure that you don't get a job because I'll mention in the police report that you are a communist. And I said, I don't care, I don't need a job. That was my response. But that fear was he was trying to create in my mind. Anyway, Jansangh at one time was an anathema. Then BJP was an anathema. Every left winger, if he wanted to abuse you, would call you Jansanghi. And the second anathema was the Communist Party. No communist card carrying communist could get a government job till 60s. It was only after 62 when the Chinese invaded and then the Communist Party split between CPM and CPI. The people belonging to CPI started getting government jobs, but they were not. So this witch hunt was there in that country as well. I am amazed that the countries which call themselves democratic countries indulge in this sort of a witch hunt. Difference of ideology, difference of opinion is a hallmark of any democratic setup. Now, reverting back to these allegations of Russian hacking of DNC, there are three issues at stake. One, there is no proof, there are only allegations. Secondly, if there was no active response at the time of such allegations when Pentagon, White House, Army and Revenue Department, the Treasury were invaded, why this invasion of DNC computer is such a calamity to have called for such a drastic action. Thirdly, why manufacture evidence? Now that evidence about the electricity generation, it is an isolated laptop of an official, not connected with a grid, but it has a malware, so the blame goes to Putin. Now, do you think that the president of a major power, may not be the superpower, but major power, one of the polar high-ups in the global affairs, would give directions that one junior engineer's laptop should be infected with a malware? I don't deny there has been a malware, but to impute it to President Putin is just an instance of idiocy. I won't call it lunacy because there is a method in the madness shown by Obama administration. Secondly, the first point is why so much emphasis for DNC when there was no hue and cry, when the navigation systems of the US naval forces were hijacked. There was no hue and cry when the satellites of US were endangered by the Chinese. Second, do you use an atom bomb to kill an ant? Even if I assume that President Putin was personally involved, is the reaction valid? Is it not escalating the relationship into a more horrible depth? It's an abyss on which they are falling. Lucky for them that the 20th of January would see a new man come and he will negate all these actions. Thirdly, does US itself not commit those deeds? Each senator, each CIA operator has come on CNN and said it, well, we do it everywhere. If they do it, why should they crib when others do it? Why have they call themselves Christians, and why have they forgotten the Christian dictum? Do unto others as you wish to be done by. Why have they forgotten the proverb, what is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander? Or the third law of Newton, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if they act, they'll get the reaction of the same nature. And other countries have not reacted the way this infantile, mentally infantile administration is acting. A lame-duck, infantile Obama administration is acting with bravado, which is unbecoming to a country which calls itself a superpower. Now, what does McCarthyism aim at? It aims at A, making you mental slaves and robots who have no will of your own. B, it creates an aura of fear and uncertainty, thereby sapping initiative and making the place a gulag, a typical Russian gulag, a place akin to Siberia, at least intellectually, if not physically. And the thirdly most important is to beguile, to mislead people into your way of thinking, thereby stifling dissent, free thought, free discussion, and all appearances of free expression. It also aims at creating an atmosphere where the future incumbent of the White House may be plagued with the issues that are not his creation, but have been intentionally created. This McCarthyism, which was devastating to US polity, may not be to the country's administration, but to the people, is again being revived by the interested parties. And what would happen is that those communities which at one time perceived that they were going to be victims of Trump's winning, wrongly perceived of course, like Muslims, would now get a handle to beat the new administration with. It would also revile anti-Semitism. You see, two actions of Obama government: A, in engineering in an underhand manner anti-Israel resolution, and B, reacting in a manner unbecoming a superpower on manufactured and unreliable evidence are symptoms of mental delusion. It seems as if some schizophrenic has taken control of the UN management and UN administration. It's bad for the people of USA, but it's bad for the whole globe as well. Because, as I said earlier, this vibration emanating from this country would travel. I would say Putin has shown grace and statesmanship by not reacting. His response has been very, very restrained. His response has been very mature, as opposed to the infantile attitude of Obama. Now, that being the case, what the American people are supposed to do, they should have seen through the game being played by the media and by the management, the administration, and not be a party to it. And I know majority of the people do not believe this built up hate against Russia and against Trump campaign. They don't. But every fire that you lit would leave some embers which shall be capable of resulting again in a conflagration. And that is going to be the tragedy of this country. People have got to realize that McCarthyism in its revived form is worse than the McCarthyism of that age, because at that time McCarthyism was only involved in domestic actions, partly in that infamous FBI program, but primarily in the domestic action. However, this time this McCarthyism has global ramifications and thereby hangs a tail. I hope and trust that the Americans will see through this game of duplicity, this game of generating fear, this game of generating uncertainty, and come out of the shell that is sought to be created to be what they really are. This is not a fight between the stars and the sickle. Stars being the flag of America and sickle being the emblem of Russia. It is a fight between freedom and slavery, mental slavery. It's a fight between rational thought and irrational attitudes. Choice is yours. Have a nice day.